and welcome to the Central Alberta Pregnancy Care Centre's annual Fall Fundraiser. We're so glad that you've decided to join us tonight. For those of you who I haven't had the opportunity to meet, I'm Lisa Smith, the Centre's Executive Director. Some of you participated in purchasing a meal from Cilantro and Chive tonight as part of our event. We hope that you enjoyed it as much as we did. Part of our traditional fall fundraiser includes a silent auction. This year, our auction is virtual as well. Be sure to spend some time viewing the items provided by our generous donors. Bidding will be open until Sunday, October 24th at 7 p.m. To begin the evening, I have asked Ian Hartley, our board chair, to open us in prayer.
Hello, welcome. I'm Ian Hartley. I'm the board chairman. I've been with Pregnancy Care for 6 years, and it's really been great. It's a way of comforting, inspiring, and helping people who are really stressed at some point in their lives. It's my joy to have the prayer with you this evening. Shall we pray? Dear God, we are in your presence. And in your presence, we remember that you made us to love us and to care for us. And we are so grateful we can pass that on to the people that come to pregnancy care. And dear God, in your presence, I remember all the supporters of pregnancy care and how they've been so generous during COVID-19. And I thank you for putting your generosity into their hearts. Thank you so much, you're wonderful. And now enjoy your evening, as you should.
Even though we're not able to meet in person, tonight is a night of celebration. For the past 33 years, the Central Alberta Pregnancy Care Centre has walked a journey with thousands of women and men and families in Central Alberta, extending grace, providing education, and ongoing compassionate support before, during, and after pregnancy. Our theme for this upcoming year is New Beginnings. A new beginning can mean embracing a new perspective. In times of change and uncertainty, it's helpful to have someone to lift our spirits, inspire, and encourage us. When thinking about beginnings, I'm reminded of the old saying, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." For our clients, that single step is a phone call or a visit to one of our centers in Red Deer, Olds, Rocky Mountain House, Drumheller, and Stettler. As that first step is taken, clients are welcomed with unconditional acceptance and compassion, with an invitation to share their story. Operationally speaking, this past year has brought new beginnings in leadership and strategic management. Our focus has been on strengthening our staff, volunteers, programs, and partnerships. A director was hired to open our new satellite center in Stettler, and we are actively looking for a physical space there to begin offering in-person support. We celebrated the grand opening of our Drumheller Center and our first ever outdoor family event. Our satellite center in Rocky Mountain House relocated to a larger space as well. In Olds, we're looking for a property to purchase for our center, which includes the goal of offering a maternity home program in the future. These new beginnings for our center locations will better equip us to continue to meet the needs of our clients and our communities. It is my pleasure now to introduce to you Giselle, our maternity home director in Red Deer. Giselle will walk you through the maternity home and share how the program nurtures new beginnings for the pregnant and parenting moms who live there.
Hi, I'm Giselle Katrowski and I'm the director of the Area Maternity Home here in Red Deer. I've been with the Area for just about 4 years now. The Area is a pretty special place. We are a two-phase program that promotes healthy parenting and just a nurturing and supportive environment for up to 11 moms and their babies. Phase 1 is a 4-bedroom congregate living setting where most of our women start. So they come into the program in phase 1 and they come from all sorts of different environments. Our girls come from homelessness, addictions, a variety of mental health concerns, their own biological families, often were not supportive for them, and many of them grew up themselves in the foster and group care system. And almost all of them have quite an extensive history of trauma. So we work all of our programs from a trauma-informed approach. So when our women arrive in phase 1, they're between the ages of 15 and 25, although we have had younger and we have certainly had older. And they come into our program. It's a 4-bedroom program, and they each have their own bedroom and bathroom, and then they share living space, kitchen, and laundry space. The focus of the first couple weeks when they arrive is really stability and security. For a lot of them, they have not known where they're going to sleep each night and where their next meal is coming from. It's really hard to start focusing on the big things when they've been struggling so much with what the little things are. So we let them get settled in and let them get that feeling of safety that for a lot of them can also feel really uncomfortable and scary in and of itself. So we are staffed 24/7 with an amazing group of caring women who just come alongside these young women, and their first step is to build relationship. Research shows that more healing and growth can happen from a healthy, compassionate, caring relationship than any program or institution. So that's our goal, build that relationship so then we can start the next hard work. So the focus in phase 1, once they're settled and have had a bit of stability with us, is life skills, healthy parenting, nutrition, and just getting ready for that baby. And then those early parenting skills. So our day-to-day life looks like just coming alongside them and teaching them the things that they didn't learn in their own families. How do you cook a meal? How do you clean a bathroom? How do you have a healthy argument in a safe way? How do you have a healthy conversation and communication? What does a good routine look like? What are healthy choices? How do we go out in the world and make healthy choices and then come back? So that's our big focus. Once they've been with us a while, till baby's about 6 months of age and we have a really good understanding of where they're at and what their goals are, they move on to phase 2 of our program. So to get to phase 2, we use a life skills matrix and goal-focused approach. Our case manager meets with each young woman weekly to make sure she's taking the steps needed towards her goals. And once we get to the point where they're meeting their goals regularly and hitting the point we like to see about halfway consistently on our life skills matrix, they're ready for phase 2. And in phase 2, we focus on independence, employment, and education. So phase 2 consists of 7 one-bedroom apartments. Once our moms get over there, they have more independence. They're solely responsible for the day-to-day care of their child in their apartment and their grocery shopping. Our case manager still meets with them weekly to work on those goals and make sure they're still moving in the right direction, and they're in a safe environment still. So if something happens that doesn't go quite as they're planned, they still have our staff that they have this relationship with to fall back on and troubleshoot things with. So those are things like all those things that can cause stress in those early years: baby's first fever, teething, sleepless nights, a new job, and just balancing everything from parenting and school and work all at once. We use a phase 2 model because if we send these young women right back into the community out of phase 1, they have a much higher risk of falling back into some of their own patterns and unhealthy choices. This way they get to practice all those new skills and learn their new coping skills in a safe environment. And sometimes it's the little things we don't even think of. I once had a resident come flying into my office with a salmon on a baking sheet, half cooked, going, "How do I know if this is cooked? How do I make sure I don't poison us?" The little things mean a lot to them, and that's where the relationship comes in. So I often get asked, how do we gauge success? Well, if you look at the backgrounds that our young women come from, success has to be gauged differently for each one of them. We have seen improved mental health. We have seen improved relationships. We have seen girls just stick with the program that never thought they would stay with us. So we celebrate success at every point. We celebrate first steps, we celebrate first birthdays. We celebrate GEDs and high school diplomas. We celebrate 6 months sober, 1 year sober, 2 years sober. We have cried as our girls choose to get baptized, have gone on and gotten married, and have graduated university and started their own businesses. What we hear over and over again is that I never expected to stay. Most of our young women have never received positive feedback. They are just waiting for the time they mess up and they get asked to move on. We avoid that at all costs. We want to meet them with grace, we want to meet them with love, we want to let them know that setbacks happen, mistakes happen, bad choices happen, and we're in this for the long haul if they are. So that's what we do. We want them to know there's a different way, there's always another way, bad choices can be remedied, and there's a way for a new beginning.
Hi, my name's Linda Heron, and I've been the Client Services Director at the Central Alberta Pregnancy Care Centre for the past 8 years. Part of my role has been recruiting and training and mentoring volunteers who play a very vital role in all that we do at the Pregnancy Care Centre. Some choose to help by working in the clothing boutique. We get a large amount of donations of maternity items and baby clothes, and we have dedicated volunteers who come in and fold and sort and look after that. Some volunteers only come in when we need them. That could be stuffing envelopes or helping with events like this one. Some help out by driving residents of the maternity home to appointments or by providing childcare and support for them. And still others love working in the garden. One of our longtime volunteers serves by coming in weekly to enter data and stats into our database. Our volunteers vary in age, from teens who come to provide service work with their youth groups or other things. Our current oldest volunteer is turning 80 this month. She still works with clients and they love her very much. Our client advocates are volunteers who have chosen to work directly with clients. This requires training that's offered once or twice a year. It's a pretty intense training with a big time commitment of about 30 hours, followed by orientation so that they have lots of opportunity to practice and learn to be able to work with our clients. We rely on our volunteers to provide superb care. In fact, in tracking our volunteer hours in 2019, we recognized that the number of volunteer hours that we had would have required 12.8 full-time staff to complete. It's a huge cost savings to the centre, but also our volunteers bring a myriad of life experience and skills that only enhances the work they do. Most of our client advocates volunteer a minimum of 4 hours per week, and a lot of them will tell me that the day that they volunteer is their favorite day of the week. Working with our clients, offering them information on the choices that are available to them, giving them decision-making tools, providing material supports, and showing them Christian love that many of them may have never experienced before. It's rewarding and it's fulfilling. For some, their time spent volunteering becomes part of their career journey. We have a few of our volunteers that have gone on to be social workers. One has taken a master's in counseling. I have no doubt that their experience working at the centre will greatly enhance those skills. Men and women come to volunteer at the centre for many reasons. Most have heard about our ministry and believe that they're coming to serve our clients. But for some of them, what's actually bringing them is their own trauma, their own wounding, their loss that they've gone through themselves. God, I think, uses those past things to draw them to serving others, but for many of them, they find their own healing when they come to the centre as well. Before our volunteers are able to offer support to clients, they do need to go through some of our programs so that they're able to offer those to our clients. And in that process, they do find their own healing. And for a lot of them, they deal with issues that they actually thought they had dealt with years ago and realized that they've just buried. With the help of our staff and God's healing guidance, true healing comes, and now they're really truly able to serve the clients. As it says in 2 Corinthians 1:4, He comforts us in all our troubles so that we can comfort others. When they are troubled, we will be able to give them the same comfort that God has given us. In keeping with our theme of new beginnings, I want to share a story about a beautiful woman that I met in the fall of 2019 when she came to serve at the centre. She was lovely, but very broken, and when she shared some of her story with me, I was pretty convinced that she needed our help more than what she was able to give at that time. I've learned that God has different reasons for bringing people, and so I encouraged her to take part in the training and waited to see what He was going to do. She attended faithfully every session. She was downcast and sad. In some sessions, she cried the whole way through. Her vulnerability and her openness created a beautiful environment that allowed others in the group to be authentic with their issues as well. I actually think it would be best if you heard this story from Nadine herself, and so I'd just like to introduce you to her now.
My name is Nadine Nowlan. I grew up in a small French community in New Brunswick. I grew up in a Christian home where I've learned from a young age about the love and about the sacrifice of Christ on the cross. When I was a teenager, although I had learned all of those great values, I decided to be on my own and follow the worldly pleasures. At 16, I met the man who promised to love, to cherish, and to take care of me. 4 years into our relationship, although there was signs and red flags of his mental, emotional, and physical abuse, I still said yes to his proposal of marriage while he stated that things would change and we would have a happy life together. Obviously, once we got married, he felt like he had a bigger control over me. So the abuse became more frequently, and the physical abuse was starting to cause damage. Although I realize today that bruises and cracked bones can heal, it left me for many years with shame of what I had endured, and healing would take so long. When my son was born, I figured that things would probably improve and we'd get to cherish this little life that was presented to us. But that wasn't the case. The abuse became worse. I felt very lonely in my relationship. And that's when I decided to search for that peace that I had been looking for all my life. I started going back to church. And one night, all alone in my bedroom, I've realized for the first time that Christ had carried all the shame and everything I had been going through, and He loved me enough to save my soul. That day, I really found peace. 3 years later, I was carrying our second child. And although I felt that things couldn't get worse, well, it did. One night, laying in bed, I had brought my son, 3 years old, with me. My husband was out all night. He came home at around 5 o'clock in the morning, woke me up, and he demanded to have sexual intercourse. Of course, being 7 months pregnant, I tried to stop him, and as I tried to push him away, he grabbed me so tightly that I feared for my safety, and I also fear for the safety of my kids. So I allowed him to do what he wanted to do, and thank God, he never hurt me, and my son never woke up. It would take me many years to come to the conclusion that that night or that early morning I had been raped. Weeks later, my husband had been to a detox. He came back home, went right back to his old habits, and in a rage, 6 days after my daughter was born, he demanded that I pack all my things, take our son and the daughter, and move out of the home. I moved back to my parents' house. I lived there for 4 years and tried to focus on my life and recollect everything that had happened. I got a job, was able to buy a house, and focus all my attention for the next 15 years on work, raising my kids, and homeschooling. So 15 years down the road, I met this man called Paul. Paul is actually the type of guy that you wish you would meet. He was kind, he was loving, he knew exactly how to treat a woman. And if there is such a thing as love at first sight, well, I would say that's definitely what happened when I first saw Paul. What I didn't realize is that Paul was also struggling with his own dark secrets. And after we got married, I would say we were together for about 5 years, and then after we got married, I noticed he was deteriorating. His depression became worse. He started using medication prescribed by his daughter along with alcohol just to numb the pain. I figured that with my love and support that Paul would get better. But that's not what I was seeing. I was constantly worried about what he would do and if he might hurt himself. On August 15, 2018, I came home from work and realized that Paul wasn't around the house. Although his car was outside, I couldn't find him. I became at first very anxious because I knew how he had been suffering. So I started looking around, and as I stepped outside, I realized that our shed door, although they were completely closed, the lock hadn't been put back on. So I'm walking towards that door. My first thought was to ask God to help me to be able to have the strength to open that door. So I did, and I found my husband's lifeless body. I made sure that if there was anything I could do, but basically it was too late. So I walked out of there, very controlled in my emotion, which is surprising, but I think feeling God's presence is what helped me. I sat down on the grass like a little girl, and I had tears rolling down my face, and I knew I had to call for help. You may wonder if there is times that I have thought about going back in time. And I did for so long. I just pictured if I could go back in time and just hold his face and tell him how he's loved and tell him that I'm there for him and there is help out there. But because we can't do that, we can't go back in the past, my focus from now on is to focus on other people out there who are suffering and have those dark secrets that they feel they can't share. My new beginning happened when I moved to Alberta in 2019. I came into the center just to see if there was anything I could help and how I could volunteer. I was offered a package for the new training that was going to happen shortly, and I accepted. I didn't realize that it wasn't going to be what I could offer the center, but what they could offer to me until I started this journey. As I'm in the training, I was extremely broken. Like Linda mentioned, I cried quite a bit. I will never forget the day when I cried for straight 3 hours. And in my heart, I figured Linda's going to tell me, maybe this is too much for you, Nadine. Maybe you should step out. But instead, she came forward without saying one word. She embraced me. And for the first time, I felt loved, I felt unjudged, and I felt hope for healing. We finished the training, I started orientation, and we went through steps to sexual health for healing from past abuse. We went through the 7 stages of grief, and from there, I was beginning to be a new person. Not that broken person that had walked through the door, but a person who knew that there was finally hope. You may wonder what I'm doing today. I am remarried to my wonderful husband, Winston, who has been supportive and been by my side every step of the way. A year ago, I was hired through the Pregnancy Care Center as our new client services coordinator. I believe that the trauma and the situation I had to go through in the past is really helping me to understand what our clients are also going through. It allows me to feel and understand their difficulties. I am full of gratitude to God to allow my story of brokenness to become a story of hope for all the clients I encounter each and every day.
Thank you, Nadine, Linda, and Giselle for sharing your stories. In addition to our maternity home program, the Central Alberta Pregnancy Care Centre, with volunteers, provides programs for women, men, and families. This includes the delivery of accurate information to those facing an unexpected pregnancy, information on pregnancy, abortion, and adoption, programs that provide support and healing to those affected by a pregnancy loss or abortion, positive parenting, life skills development, and healthy relationship education. Our programs are offered in all 5 locations where the need exists. As community partners, we are careful not to duplicate programs already being provided in any of the communities we serve. It's a blessing to work with our community partners in each of our locations to deliver love and support to those in need. The story you are about to hear is a journey of hope and new beginnings. Let me introduce you to Paige, a Central Alberta Pregnancy Care Centre client who would like to share her story with you.
Hi, my name's Paige, and I'm here to share my story with you. I'm really here to share it with anybody who may have felt like me before and who doesn't want to feel like that anymore. Anybody who has felt unworthy, undeserving, unloved, shameful, and broken. I was born into trauma. I think I was actually programmed in the womb with trauma due to being born to parents who were suffering from mental health and addiction issues themselves. In the midst of their trauma, they were trying to raise 4 girls the best that they could, but they didn't have any access to help or any way to know how. I wasn't aware when I was growing up that my life was something that was traumatic. It was just the way that life was for me and my sisters. I would spend my days in chaos while I was at home, and I would go to school and pretend like everything was normal. That was just the way life was. I learned from a young age how to navigate it. I knew when to be quiet. I knew when to speak up. I knew when my dad had been drinking too much. I was aware when my mom was overdosing, whether it was accidental or on purpose, because it had happened so many times that I needed to know the difference so I could let somebody know whether it was a suicide attempt or an accidental overdose. I think I was about 8 the first time that I did this. My sisters all did the same thing, really. My mom overdosed one night, and my 14-year-old sister drove her to the hospital. It was a suicide attempt, actually, and my dad put her in the car with my mom so he could stay home with us girls. That was just life for us. We didn't know that it was something abnormal. We didn't know that it was something other kids weren't going through. We were also told that if we told anybody, we would be taken away. So our job was to keep the secret and pretend like things were normal and just try to get through it. My dad, he did his best while my mom was struggling with an OxyContin addiction, but he had his own demons as well. He spent most of his time working away to, I think, distance himself or try to manage. He was also supporting a family by himself, and they were struggling. I wanted a way out, but I didn't really know how. All I knew was that I was suffering. I don't really have any good memories from my childhood. People tell me there were good times in between, but I don't remember them. If you ask my sisters, they don't really remember them either. I think it's mostly blocked out. I think maybe if we had some access to help or my parents had some access to help, I would have had a chance to create good memories or maybe remember some of the good times that I did hear about. Unfortunately, I never got the chance with my mom because she passed away from a drug overdose when I was 12 years old. After my mom passed away, my dad, he did get sober, but he didn't get help. He continued to struggle. He was away working, or when he was home, he was angry. At the time, I hated him. I blamed it all on him, but now I know he didn't have tools to cope. He didn't have the knowledge of how to deal with what was happening. He was left alone with 4 daughters who were much older in their actions than they should have been because of our childhood. We all wanted to be grown and none of us wanted to listen to my dad. I was introduced to alcohol at the age of 14 and I quickly learned that alcohol really numbed a pain I didn't know that I could have taken away. I was living in pain all the time, so alcohol abuse became pretty prevalent in my life at an early age. I knew that I needed alcohol and I knew that in order to get it, I would need to find friends who were older than I was, and so that's what I did. I didn't really fit in with people my age anyways, so the people that I did find that were older, they got me alcohol, they told me that I was fun, they told me that I was cool. For the first time I felt really accepted in my life. I had men giving me attention and I really believed that they loved me. So at 14, I started having sex. At 15, I was introduced to cocaine by somebody that I should have been able to trust at that age. I was 15 and she was 21. She asked my dad if I could go help her babysit. I was super excited because I knew that she was lying and we were gonna go to a party and I was gonna get drunk. As soon as I got into the car, she showed me drugs. I'd never seen them before. I had heard about them in the DARE program and stuff like that, but I had never seen them. She asked me if I had done them before. I told her no, and she told me that inevitably I would do them, and she felt safest if I did them with her that night. So at the age of 15, I tried cocaine for the first time. I also smoked crack that night. I never smoked crack again, but that did start the beginning of my cocaine addiction. I had never felt so free before. Cocaine numbed absolutely everything that was going on in my life. If I was high, I was free, I was happy, what I thought was happiness at the time. And I needed it. I needed cocaine now. That was my safe place, and I needed to figure out a way to have access to it. So again, I looked for friends that used, and it wasn't hard for me to find a group that I thought I fit in with. I acted how they wanted. I was younger than them. I was susceptible. I gave them sex. I gave them my time. I pretty much did whatever they wanted, and most of them were quite a bit older than me. At 15, one of these men asked me if I wanted to go to a party. He knew that my dad would have never let me because he knew our family quite well, and he told me that he would help me sneak out. He drove to the end of my driveway and he turned off the lights of his car so that my dad couldn't see. I snuck out a basement window and he let me know that he had drugs with him. Win-win. I was so excited going to a party with an older guy. There were drugs there. What more could I want? He raped me that night. He told me before he raped me that he had been waiting to see me in that position since the first time that he had met me. I was 11 when he met me and he was 21. I wanted it to stop when it was happening, but I didn't know how to stop it. I knew that it was wrong. I was so intoxicated that nothing happened. I let him rape me and I wanted to go home. I went home with my best friend that night. I told her what had happened and I asked her not to tell anybody. She told me she would keep my secret. And I tried to move on, but things got really bad after that. I couldn't return to any type of childhood, and if I ever did have one, I moved out right away after that. I needed to be somewhere where nobody was trying to control me. Unfortunately, my dad did start trying to parent me, but it was a little bit too late. The next few years are really a blur. I can't tell you the exact age that I got an abortion. I can tell you that when I did find out I was pregnant, I was a young and
scared teenager. I was suffering from addiction. I thought I had a boyfriend who loved me. And so I waited until he got home to tell him that I was pregnant. When he was gone and I was waiting for him to get home, I just really wanted to get drunk, or I really wanted to get high, but something inside of me, a maternal instinct at this teenage age, told me not to, so I didn't. I cried for days. When he did get home, I let him know I was pregnant, and he asked me what I wanted to do. I told him that I wanted to keep the baby. I was going to be the best mom that I could be. I wasn't going to repeat what my parents had done to me. I was going to try to make a change. He told me that if I didn't get an abortion, I would never see him again. I wanted help, so I started searching for answers on the internet. The first place that popped up for me was the Pregnancy Care Center. I reached out to them and they were super friendly. They got me in right away. I told them that I wanted to keep the baby, and they let me know that there was so much help for me, whether I was single or not, whether I chose to keep the baby. And if I did choose an abortion, there were resources for me too, but what she really drove home for me was that this was my choice and I was in control of it, and it was a decision for me to make and for nobody else. I made a second appointment and I never went back. I wish I would have. I ended up getting an abortion and I never saw him again anyways. After my abortion, I reached out to the Pregnancy Care Center again. They offered me tons of help. They offered me counseling for post-abortion. They offered me somebody to talk to. They gave me an appointment to come in. I never went back. The next few years of my life were plagued with heavy drug use. I experimented with all different types of drugs, but my main choice of drug remained cocaine and obviously alcohol. I was drinking all the time. I met somebody when I was 20. He was great. He was super nice to me. For the first time, I felt like this guy actually cared about me, not just for my body, but he wanted to know me. He was interested in me. I quickly became pregnant. This time I followed through with the pregnancy, and in October 2013, I welcomed my son. He's the best thing that has ever happened to me. For the first time in my life, I felt like God really existed again. I knew when I looked at his face that there was something bigger out there, something bigger than me, and I wanted to be the best mom that I could be. That quickly changed. I didn't know that my abortion was going to come back and affect me as hard as it did. I didn't feel like I was good enough to be his mom. I felt like because I was a bad person and because I had done what I had done, God was going to take this baby away from me. I didn't sleep. I never slept. I just sat and watched him breathe. I would wait until his dad got home so I could take a quick nap. I was exhausted, but I didn't want to lose him. After a year of trying to make it work with my son's dad, we just couldn't. We were both young. I never knew what a healthy relationship was, and I wasn't able to continue one with him. We decided to split, but we wanted to make co-parenting work, and we did. We worked through it, and we were good co-parents. I was able to find the strength to be a good mom on the days when I did have my son. Not a present mom, because I was struggling inside, but I was there for him. I never brought alcohol or drugs around him, but the second that he was out the door into his dad's, I was somewhere partying, drinking, being super careless. I don't know how I didn't die. I knew that I needed to break the cycle, but I didn't know how. I had a few successes on my own, but there was no healing. There were times when I would get sober for a few months at a time, and I would start to get my life back together. But I never did any of the work that I needed to do. So unfortunately, I would just fall back into the same cycle and start off with the same habits. I did my best to shelter my son from what I was going through, but of course, you can't shelter a child from that when you can't even take care of yourself. Damaged parents, they raise damaged children, and it's pretty much impossible to get out of alone. In February 2020, I got pregnant with my daughter. I found out I was pregnant 4 days before my best friend died. He died of an overdose. he relapsed after 4 years of being sober, and he died the same night. If you've been listening to this so far, you know that in my life I've experienced pain. I have never experienced this type of pain. I lost my best friend. He was the person that was always in my corner. He was the best person. He was my supporter through the worst of the worst and the best of the best. His name was Landon. The day that he died, I told myself I will never use another substance again. I was pregnant. I was in the middle of the first lockdown of a pandemic. I was broken and I was grieving. I knew I needed help, but I didn't know where to start. I'm so thankful that God knew where to start and that he was waiting for me to be open. I found a journal entry. It was sent to me from my friend Landon, who had passed away. It said, "Stay sober, be patient, be loving, be kind, be genuine, grow, enjoy the ride, and trust God." I started praying that day. I started to develop my relationship with God on my own, but I didn't know where to go or how to do it. One night at about 3 in the morning, I woke up to a name being repeated in my head. I'm not kidding, it was so loud. It was 3 in the morning, I was by myself, and I just kept hearing this name over and over and over again, and I just wanted to go back to sleep, but I couldn't. I felt absolutely insane. I looked him up. It was somebody who I'd gone to school with like 15 years ago, and I had never heard his name again. I didn't know what to do with it, but I felt this massive anxiety. If you know what anxiety is, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what anxiety is, it's like somebody's sitting on your chest and you're gonna vomit, and that would not go away. I called my sister and I told her like, "Hey, I heard this guy's name in my head. How do I approach him without sounding totally crazy?" And she totally thought I was crazy. So I did it. I messaged him and I said, "Hey, I heard your name at 3 in the morning. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do about it. Sorry if I sound crazy." It turns out he was a pastor now, and he didn't think I was crazy at all. He thought this was God and this is amazing, and he's had these things happen before. He asked me if I would be interested in figuring out what his place in my story was, or why God was reaching out for me to contact him. We talked a few times on and off on the phone. I didn't really know what I was talking to him for. I was just trying to do what God had told me to do. I didn't know at the time it was God. I do now. He asked me if I remembered a lady that we had grown up around. She was somebody from our community, and he thought I should call her. Turns out she works at the Pregnancy Care Center. I called her that day. I left a voicemail and she immediately returned my call. The rest is really history. I got into contact with her and I have been experiencing healing ever since. I found a place where I am welcomed, I am celebrated, I am loved. Somebody believes in me and I never feel judged. I have been able to work through traumas that I thought I would never get over. Things that I didn't even remember until I started working with somebody who cared enough to get them out of me. I'm able to love myself. I feel worthy. I feel important. I'm a good mom. Shortly after I met with her, I welcomed my daughter. She was born October 4th, 2020, exactly 7 years after my son was born, so I know that she's from God too. Her name is Landon. I am 588 days sober today, and I am never going back. I am worthy. I'm important. I have good things to offer this world. And without having the resources or the help to realize this, I don't know where I would be. My family is healing. I have people around me who tell me that I am something positive in their life. My daughter was born to a healthy mother, a sober mom, and my son has a present mother every single day. even on the hard days, and the hard days aren't even that hard anymore, and I'm so thankful for that. Whenever I doubt myself, or whenever I have a question, I know exactly where I can get help. The same place that welcomed me as a pregnant, scared teenager opened their doors to me again as a pregnant, scared 28-year-old. My life is forever better because of this. This is what new beginnings means to me. I am breaking the cycle, not just for myself, but for my children and for my family. And I am so proud of me.
Thank you, Paige, for sharing your story and your vulnerability this evening. We are so blessed to be a part of your new beginning. On behalf of the Central Alberta Pregnancy Care Centre Board of Directors, staff, and volunteers, we would like to thank Cinch Communications, our platinum sponsor for this event. Your financial support, commitment to prayer, and your gift of time are what equips our centers to be able to serve the women, men, and families in need of pregnancy-related resources. This support translates into the ability to deliver accurate information to those facing an unexpected pregnancy. It means that clients receive support and healing when affected by a pregnancy loss or abortion. It allows our clients to receive positive parenting, life skills development, and healthy relationship education. And it helps provide a safe and stable home for 11 pregnant women and parenting moms. Will you partner with us to bring new beginnings? We can't help them without you. When you give, you are joining a community committed to making a difference in the lives of individuals and families in Central Alberta. Please join us in helping change lives and nurture new beginnings together. Your donations, love, and generosity are greatly appreciated. You can visit our website at pregnancycare.ca and click on the donate button. Follow the instructions to make your donation. We'd love to hear from you as you make your donation as well. Call our Red Deer Centre Monday through Thursday during regular business hours to provide a credit card number. Or you can send us an e-transfer using the email address accounting@pregnancycare.ca. For those of you who would like to continue our conversation, please join me for a live Zoom event following this video. This interactive time will include a building tour and a question and answer period. You'll find the Zoom link included in the email you received for tonight's virtual event. Thank you for being here with us tonight. Remember to check back often on your virtual silent auction bids. The auction closes on Sunday, October 24th at 7 p.m. Good night, everyone, and many blessings to you all.